World Combat Sports. Hello, fight fans, and thanks for tuning in. We have a burner, a dynamic wick to light your day. And speaking about Khabib, the Eagle Nurmagomedov, and Conor, the Notorious McGregor. Let's get down to it, a side-by-side comparison. These two are signed up to collide in a much-anticipated matchup. It's been ongoing, festering in the media and amidst the conversation talking points of the fight fans, and is now on deck. Nurmagomedov from Russia with a ledger of 26 victories, 0 defeats, and you have Conor McGregor, 21 victories and 3 defeats. Note that his 3 defeats, 2 were outside the organization of the UFC, and that one that we remember so faithfully in 2016, where the strikes was beginning to be a little bit much for McGregor and his, suspect cardio. And he decided to shoot in on a black belt, as in Nate Diaz, and he paid the ultimate price for it. He was subbed. And that in itself, Nate shocked the UFC community because Conor was this guy that was on the rise. And Nate Diaz stepped in and handle business. Yeah, both fighters took punishment, but it was absolutely a phenomenal bout. Let's get down to the side-by-side, okay? If you want to talk about KOs, of course the KO percentage is going to favor Conor McGregor with 86%. Nurmagomedov, which I will refer to him as Khabib, just to make the tongue twister, the riddles, and everything else just a little bit easier. His KO percentage is 31%. All right. It's a lot that goes into a Sambo champion like Khabib, vice a southpaw counterpuncher like Conor McGregor. I'm just keeping it 100. You know, you've seen him KO Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. You've seen what happened when he did to Chad Mendez, who was a pretty decent wrestler himself, but wasn't able to get the job done. You know, he was in there with the older, unpolished Max Holloway, So, yeah, the KO percentage goes to that of Conor. Then the subs. The subs is going to have a disparity because we found out something about Conor McGregor. His ground game is very, very embryonic. I'm sure he's been working on that particular aspect going in with an opponent such as Khabib, who is known to have some of the fastest closing distance. Before you know it, you're in a single or double, and you're on your back, and Khabib is on top. I mean, we all saw what he did to Michael Johnson. He was able to take Al Alaquenta down when he actually picked up the title, but he couldn't keep him down. And, that's his MO, takedowns. So the disparity here is in subs. Khabib is 31%, Conor is 5%. So that tells you what's going to happen. If it's a striking match, then it may favor Conor. If it's one to go to the ground, the fight fans will see if Khabib is able to sustain that position and do work and score effectively and break Conor down, inflict damage and, try to basically pace himself enough to get the finish or go 5 solid rounds. Going to the decision. Once again, Conor McGregor, the disparity is here in his favor. A decision with Conor McGregor is only 10% because he was knocking fighters out, and that with Khabib, he's pretty much, at 38% because of his wrestling, his takedown ability. Sambo, ground, the ground practitioner, the maestro, high level is Khabib. He closed distance like no other. The height, just a slight 69 inches go to Conor McGregor and 70 to that of Khabib. The weight, of course, will be campaigned at 155. 155. Reach, 70 inches for Khabib and 74 inches for Conor. Leg reach, 40 inches for Khabib and 40 inches for Conor. So we have an even slate in that perspective, which truly doesn't matter because some of the most brutal kicks can come from anywhere. It's just all about the striker. Now, you get down to the wickets of understanding what could be the changer, what could be significantly the momentum shift, you know what I'm saying, disrupting the rhythm of your opponent. Because a lot of fight fans is very comfortable to sit in a chair, but when you're there, if you've never been up against the cage trying to defend the takedown, it pretty much depletes whatever energy that you believe you had if you're not pretty much, have had mat time and, have had that opportunity to try to refute the takedown. It saps your energy. It drains you. And when it comes to grappling, a lot of that deals with remediation. So when it comes to the grappling in this perspective, 5.44 in takedown average for Khabib. And then, of course, Conor is going to be extremely lower than that at 0.92. He barely takes fighters down. He may have takedown defense and counter the takedown, but he rarely takes fighters down. Jose Aldo is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but he never had time within that 13 seconds before he was knocked unconscious, which I know he would love to run it back. Jose Aldo just was able to defeat a rising MMA contender in Jeremy the Heathen Stevens. Caught him with a body shot, man. It was good to see Aldo step back into the dominance, reigns into the circle of victory. And he was absolutely elated, man. He lost himself in there, and I don't blame him. Then the takedown accuracy. 44.95% goes to Khabib. All right? And then somehow, some way, 62.5% to that of Conor. Now, this is not something that fight fans should actually, catalog as just coming from the mixed martial arts decalogue of scripture. Just take it for what it's worth, man. Because fight changes once the bell ring. That's just the way it is. Once the fight is called, that's what we're looking at. So let's look at the next analysis in this perspective. Okay. Let's look at what a lot of individuals refuse to take in consideration: the competition. All right. Let's look at Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor, check this out. Conor McGregor, in a sense, he has been in there with the likes of Eddie Alvarez, the underground king. He was able to finish Eddie Alvarez in 2 rounds, knockout. Then he was in there with Nate Diaz, August 20th, 2016. He went the distance, right? That was in the rematch. But guess what? The first time around between Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, he was subbed in round 2 in a climactic finish to a much anticipated, contentious, furious display during the pressers leading up with Nate and Nick, crashing the press conference. Conor losing it. He just didn't feel like he wanted to be disrespected like that. And it was really playing out in the most intense manner possible. I know we're in a pugilist sport, and sometimes we're supposed to see the build up and the bravado and the trash talking, but this was above and beyond. It was something that you seemed like it would have been scripted, but it was nowhere close to that particular setting. This was absolutely reality. These two disliked each other. Okay. And then moving on, Conor McGregor's opponent, Jose Aldo, which went down in 2015. We all remember the 13 seconds, round 1, heard all around the communal of MMA fans. It was an absolutely blitz that Aldo came in the way he did, and Conor, being the southpaw, shut his lights out with a counter left hand. Can't make this up. Chad Mendes knocked out round 2. Yeah, if you follow the sport, Chad Mendes took the fight on short notice, but still, he was finished by Conor McGregor. He just absolutely tanked with his cardio, depleted, and he wasn't able to keep up the pace, and Conor took advantage, all right? Next, we're just going to end it right here with the next two with Dennis Silver, who he finished in round 2, knockout. See, Conor is a knockout. He has power. He used to box, okay? Never to the point of professional, but he did have boxing, and then he decided to make that change and transition over to MMA because for whatever reason, he might not have been totally confident in his skill set as a boxer, and he felt that he would be more qualified and able to flourish in the sport of MMA. And then, of course, we remember he fought Dustin Poirier, who has made leaps and bounds in his training. Round 1 knockout finish, and that was back in 2014. But we've seen Dustin Poirier, just to kind of bleed him over into this topic of conversation. You know, he's faced, Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, and possibly now, this would be in 6 months. He's faced the top tier, opposition. I mean, he's been in there with some real ones in Dustin Poirier. Finishing Justin Gaethje, winning there with Eddie Alvarez. And, the first bout was controversial. He went in there recently and was able to finish him again. You have to take your hat off to Dustin Poirier without getting off subject, that he's actually changed the game, showing the MMA community that, hard work, you getting in there, seeing what your faults are, improving them, adding wrinkles to it, and you become much more of a threat to any opposition. Let's change lanes to Khabib Nurmagomedov, okay? Let's look at his opponents, which would be very dense in comparison to his opposition of Conor McGregor, okay? His last bout, which was a bit, to many, it was bewildering. And why was that? Because Dana White was basically making a point that it wasn't for a title. It was going to be a title. This went down April 7, 2018 against Al Iaquinta, which to me is one of my favorite fighters as far as his toughness, man. Iaquinta, he's a no-nonsense type of dude. And he's skilled also. When he was in there with Khabib, he really wasn't dominated. Khabib took him down. He applied pressure. He was able to land some strikes selectively, right? But nothing to the point where it rendered him incapable of defending himself, of putting him in such harm's way that the ref was close to stopping it. We're talking about Al Iaquinta. So, with that said, he made it to his feet, and for the last couple of rounds, it was just a striking match where Khabib was able to just toss the jab out there over and over again to Iaquinta, who wasn't too motivated to engage. It went to a 5-round decision, but for Iaquinta, I believe he could have did more. He took the fight on short notice. So a lot of variables play into that. You understand that, fight fans? A lot of variables play that we just sitting on the outside looking in, we say, whatever, we don't really digest it the way the fighters do because they're in there throwing hands. Then next for Khabib was Edson Barbosa, one of the fast twitch kickers you will ever see. We're talking about leg kicks for days, and then his spitting heel kick is just sick. I mean, if you ever seen a striker turn over like Edson Barbosa, you need to watch his highlights. He was able to go to a decision, him being Khabib, with Edson Barbosa. All right. And Edson Barbosa, he did punish. Khabib did punish Edson Barbosa that fight. He truly did. And then let's go down to Michael Johnson, another one. Michael was, having his way, Michael Johnson was doing pretty decent in the stand-up with Khabib. He was looking sharp. His combinations was landing. He was scoring effectively. It just seemed like he was going to make this bout a difficult one for Khabib. And then Khabib turned the tables and was able to get the takedown, had Michael Johnson up against the cage, and he just landed and he pummeled and he just hit him with flush shots when he was on the ground. And, and for fans that was watching it in attendance and those viewing from their homes, was probably finding it to a point hard to watch. Even though, Michael Johnson wasn't bleeding profusely, he was taking punishment, and it was a beating. And he just kept taking it. Michael Johnson did not capitulate. He didn't quit. But Khabib is a savage on the ground. And he pummeled him. And Michael Johnson made it to a third round decision. But, if I'm assessing it, I know the recovery was just, I'm saying to myself, the recovery for Johnson is going to take so long. And then what do I see? Like 3 or 4 weeks later, he's back in the cage. I say, how in the heck can he return to the cage after taking that beating and be absolutely 100% healthy? Anyway, that's not for me. And then, Khabib's last opponent's not worth mentioning, but it was a KO. And that particular guy was Darrell Horcher, which really wasn't considered to be anything of a significant top-tier opponent in contention. So now, Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov is due to clash. UFC 229, October 6, 2018. These two are set to finally touch gloves, and what the buildup has been. Khabib, he has been riddled with injuries. He has been, just in the recovery process, keeping himself healthy. And then also you have to factor in him a bit more sketchy on making weight. For some reason, his diet or nutrition or whatever the case was going on with Khabib, he was very intermittent when it comes to making weight. No consistency there. So his fight, whatever fans he had, they was kind of, giving him that denigrated feedback, get your act together. And for Conor, fight fans, let me break this down for you. This is a perfect example of how Dana White allowed him to have a whole truckload of rope. The leeway that Dana White allowed Conor McGregor to have was simply because he brought money to the UFC. He was able to win 2 titles in 2 different divisions simultaneously. And Dana White allowed him to make those moves because he felt that, he can get it done. And he did. Conor McGregor went out there and made history and was able to win over to achieve the featherweight title, which for anyone who's seen Conor McGregor weigh in, he was absolutely drawn. For him to make that weight is unbelievable. That goes to show a little bit about the fortitude of Conor McGregor. I mean, seriously, he looked absolutely dense, skeleton. I mean, to make that featherweight. And then he moved up to lightweight. And of course, he fought Eddie Alvarez and picked up the title in a knockout. So he did what he had to do. So therefore, using that rope, he took advantage of what Ronda Rousey had did earlier. And she was all about calling out Floyd Mayweather, treading off his name, building up steam. And we all know if Ronda Rousey ever would have thought of going in the ring with Floyd Mayweather, what would have happened? We found it out against a 17-time boxing champion in Holly Holmes. She destroyed her. She broke her down with her strikes, but ultimately she caught her with a blindside left high kick and ended the day. This goes to the fact that Conor McGregor picked up Floyd Mayweather's bravado, started calling him out, and was able to transition over to the boxing square and pick up one of the most lucrative paydays of a fighter with the 0-0 boxing record. That was himself, the notorious Conor McGregor. All right. He was able to go over there and fight one of the best in this era, Floyd Mayweather, TBE. And, he was stopped in a bout which played out just the way it should be from someone on the caliber boxer of Floyd Mayweather. But Conor McGregor, notoriety just exploded, breached any type of ceiling that people believed he had in superstar status. You know, his celebrity banner, it was just flying everywhere. You know, he may have went over there and lost, but he made the heaviest purse in his entire fight career. Then, following that fight, he wasn't in no rush to return back to the UFC. And in that time, you know, he was just talking. He was enjoying life as he should, making close to $100 million, if not more. And, you know, people were complaining, and such the presence, the glory that he had established in the fan base of those loyal Conor McGregor fans had all but fizzled, withered away, absolved, you know, because he truly kind of made the point that he wasn't any type of way concerned about returning in the manner in which his fans was demanding him to come back and defend the belts. But guess what? He was end up being stripped of both titles. And in that process, Max Holloway was able to earn himself back up at the top of the pinnacle of the featherweight division, and he's now the featherweight champion. Stripped, okay? You know, when it comes down to it, you don't defend your belt, and things happen. And they have to use the interim motto. You know, they have the interim label, and if you're able to go up there and earn the interim, it's all about the attitude of that fighter to consider it as legit. Okay? And then the lightweight, Khabib Nurmagomedov, his bout with Al Alaquinta, it should have been a much more competitive contender, and i.e. Tony Ferguson, you know. And then Dustin Poirier, we know he was basically contending against Justin Gaethje, who had just, I mean, come on. He came off a hard-fought battle with Eddie Alvarez, take extremely too much punishment. And then you have Kevin Lee sitting in the chute. So for Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov, this should be absolutely a phenomenal scrap. If you're asking for predictions, you have the counterpuncher versus the wrestler, sambo practitioner, takedown artist, and Khabib. For anyone who believing that Conor McGregor cannot come close to knocking Khabib out, it's possible. Conor McGregor has the power to put Khabib in a predicament that may find himself fighting for his survival in there early on in the bout, because we know Conor McGregor is at his strongest in the early rounds. And this is a 5-frame contest of wheels with two high-tier pugilists. Very high-tier pugilists. And, you know, just because, you know, Conor McGregor was subbed by Nate Diaz, he has basically put that to pasture. I'm pretty sure his training, with the money he's earned, he was able to hire much more, you know, much more high-level training regime and implement that in his preparation for Khabib. So with all that said, you know, Conor McGregor has the power to knock Khabib or stifle him just enough to gain an advantage and put him in a predicament to finish the fight. Now, Khabib, he will have to understand that the takedown defense of Conor McGregor, we're not sure how much it has improved, but then you turn around and say this is one of the fastest closer in MMA when it comes to takedown. And what can Khabib sustain if he is to take Conor McGregor down? He couldn't keep Al Alaquinta down, so can he keep Conor McGregor down? Will he use something different? Because side control and executing punch, you know, trying to deliver punches while grounded to Conor McGregor is good, but is he or will he go for a submission? Will he implement that? Because, you know, so Khabib, he's not the one to take you to the ground and then, you know, attempt to, you know, gain control, put the hooks in, or apply any type of submission. He's all about beating his opponent into submission. And we've seen that several times. So can he sustain Conor McGregor if he's able to take him to the ground, use that heavy top control, that heavy pressure that Khabib is known for? And will it sap? I'm pretty sure we're going to see this. If he's able to get Conor up against the cage, he's gonna be chest heavy. It's going to be a lot of hand, the hand dynamic there, trying to control the head movement, the chest. He's going to try to sap Conor McGregor's energy with him up against the cage. So if Conor does make it off the cage and it returns to striking, he's not as effective, or his power is not as potent as it would have been without trying to defend the takedown. And guess what? We may see Khabib knocked out trying to go for the takedown, because Conor McGregor's counter left hand, it has some dynamite to it. So we may see a knockout. I'm telling you, I believe Khabib can be knocked out. I've seen him face a striker like Michael Johnson, and he was taking punishment. Johnson just wasn't able enough to source the power to discombobulate, disrupt the rhythm of Khabib. But Conor, he has the power. He has the forte. He has the cash. He has that particular arsenal in his repertoire to make this fight very, very interesting. Khabib, he still needs to work to polish his striking game, his punching. Seriously. His takedown, when he shoots in, solid, high level. His heavy pressure, once he has his opponent incapacitated on the ground, his top pressure is superior. So from both sides of the spectrum, fight fans are looking at, who will be able to negate the strength of the other. And that is the question. Will Conor be able to keep it standing and catch Khabib, who will be coming in? He will be shooting for a takedown. And if Conor can catch him with a left hand, can Khabib take the power? Conor has he's an underrated counterpuncher. And he can strike. Like I said before, he used to box. And then Khabib, dealing with Sambo, being a Sambo champion, his takedowns are very, very high level. So we're in for a treat. I just wanted to jump on here and talk about and dichotomize the comparison between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor. All right. Khabib is a champion currently, the lightweight division, and Conor McGregor is the contender, former champion who was stripped of his title. Now he's inbound, no tune-up, going right up there to the pinnacle, the crest, the peak, the ridge line of the lightweight division. And he's going in there to attempt to lift the belt from Khabib Nurmagomedov. And I'm telling you, fight fans, this will be an epic matchup. The lead up. And Dana White has already mentioned he is not doing a press tour with these two. These two camps, and I'm shutting it down, I'm in closing. These two camps absolutely have this stain and contentiousness on a whole nother level between camps, that it will spill over much more than the situation we've seen with the Diaz brothers and Conor McGregor. We all know the more money you have, the more handlers you're able to, insert in the group. We know how that goes. We absolutely do. And, Conor McGregor wasn't too appreciative on Khabib cornering Artem, and he retaliated. He showed up at an event, caught the team bus in the parking lot area, the parking area, and he was maybe about 15 to 20 deep, and he was picking up rails, and he tossed a dolly into the window, injuring fighter Michael Chiesa, and another fighter, Ray Borg. They was unable to compete. Litigations ensued following that melee, which I'm pretty sure Conor McGregor came out the pocket a bit. Then he was charged, him being Conor McGregor, and he just recently received a measly 5 days community service. You know, money is power in this perspective. We all know that kind of plays out in the judicial system, especially with the notoriety of the notorious one, Conor McGregor. So basically, he was slapped on the wrist from that situation. And also inside that bus was Khabib Nurmagomedov. And from what my understanding in the media was saying that they had to restrain him from getting off the bus and throwing down. And I truly believe Khabib, he would have got off the bus. He would have. If he didn't have such a significant bout, he would have stepped off that bus, and it would have been much more of a situation than played out on the lens of those media representatives on site. You know what I'm saying? It would have been a whole different story. It would have been an entirely different climactic, a culminating moment with these UFC fighters. And Dana White would have had a lot more scrambling to do. You know, he would have had to call an all hands meeting, as we call it. You know, he would have had to call all the fighters and their teams to the helm, sit down behind closed doors and try to work this out. But these camps, the reason why a press tour is not going on, because it just won't work. Having these two teams coexist under the same umbrella, waiting for this media to happen, someone sooner or later will gravitate to the other, and it would be an all-out brawl. No doubt about it. Russians versus the Irish, and it would be a bad look for the UFC. I'm telling you, fight fans, it would be an absolute. You want to talk about black eyes, swollen jaws, missing teeth, you know, just any and every object that's accessible to grab. It will happen. And that's exactly why Dana White has basically called a halt to doing a press tour. So unfortunately, we really won't see these two be able to talk. And you know, we all know Conor McGregor is just the absolute top tier of his game and trash talking. I mean, a lot of fight fans are still using his memes. Unfortunate for Jeremy Stevens, who was just stopped by Dustin Poirier. You know, he was saying the one that at that time in the press conference, when he hit his opponents, they stay down. And Conor McGregor turned around and said, "Who the fuck is that guy?" It was the most funniest thing that was played out over and over again in Meme City. The global meme community, the underworld of memes, that one-liner right there, it just exploded, and it was just played over and over and over again. But guess what? I'm going to close this down. Hey, be sure to follow World Combat Sports on all social media. I need for you all to follow me on Twitter. Build up the likes. Build up the community. Instagram, Facebook. And also, I definitely need your support on the YouTube channel. Subscribe and click the bell icon so you can pick up these, you know, each time I'm able to submit a video. I'm truly thankful and appreciative of all your support. Like the page on Facebook, World Combat Sports, the group. And please be sure to pass the word to anyone and everyone. If they're not fight fans and you like my content, invite them over. And guess what? I might be able to persuade them. I might be able to win them over just from jumping on here with a segment on the mic talking about the fight game, boxing and MMA, and full contact sports in general. So, in closing, this is World Combat Sports. Be sure to turn up and tune in.